Hey folks, JD here, and this is the first sort of repeated 3D printing video that I'm going to be doing. So if you haven't seen the announcement about a week ago, I said that Monday to Friday basically we're going to have all RCs and stuff like that. Saturday and Sunday I'm going to show you my other hobbies. So obviously I'm going to, inside that, I'm going to be putting 3D printers, my cycling and my distance rides and things like that, as well as my sponsorships and everything to do with me, the Bristol to Swansea cycle, etc, etc, as well as lots of other things, painting, etc, etc. So to start this off, I've got a nice clear list of how I want everything for basically the next like 10 or 20 videos. But what I want to do is I want to just give you a taste of the things which are going to be coming in the next couple of weeks. So as you can see, I've got the Ender 3 Pro. I'm going to be assembling this as well as calibrating it and going through everything. This is a big one on my cards to assemble. But for the second, as you will see, I've got quite a few printers and quite a few things. So let's start over here. If you don't know my setup, even if you do, let me just run through everything with you. So sorry about me using the head cam, but quite literally for this particular video, I think this is by far the easiest thing, the easiest way that I could record this. So over here we have my oldest printer, which is my Creality Ender 3. The reason I went for this was quite simply because I'm a huge supporter and my job is all to do with the open source foundation, GNU and everything else around that, Linux, Unix, etc, etc. So this is the main reason I went for this, an open source printer, as well as it being a very well established printer, a very well established make, and quite honestly I love this to death. It was my first one that I had in February 2019, and since then this is what got me hooked on 3D printing. Since then, I have upgraded to the Creality Ender 5 Plus here. Please excuse the state of the bed. I've just finished another print and I haven't had a chance to tidy this up yet. But the Creality Ender 5 just basically increases on what the Creality Ender 3 can do, just with a much wider print bed as well as a lot higher detail. This is fantastic. A couple of nice little features on this as well, like for instance, you've got a nice little PLA monitor here. So once the PLA runs out on the spool, once this unhooks, or once it stops pushing against the switch inside there, then the printer just pauses. So you're not going to have the issue that you're going to have with the Ender 3, which is that if you run out of PLA, it's going to just be printing thin air. This pauses, and I can show that it does work really well because you can exchange your filament from black obviously to another color or whatever colors you're using. But here you can see it happening when I ran out of the black PLA and I had to switch it over to the gray, and you can see that obviously if this was another printer that didn't have that switch inside there, then I would just be printing thin air, and that 4.5 day print would take, well, obviously I'd have to go back to the drawing board and do it again, or find out the coordinates of where it ran out and try and work out exactly what the coordinates are to carry on the print. And then over here I have my resin printer, my Elegoo Mars, which is for the second, printing an anatomically correct skull, but more on that later down the line. Now, obviously I have quite a lot of PLA stored inside airtight containers here. I have lots of resin and isopropyl and water-based resin and all this different stuff all inside this lockable cabinet here, which is a chemical safe cabinet. As well as obviously I have the Ender 3 Pro here to assemble, which I'm going to do once I figured out exactly where I'm going to put everything. Now, some of you will recognise this as my unboxing table. This is pretty much where I unbox, where I repair, where I do any of my work to do with quadcopters, RC cars. It's all here. As well as I paint from here, I use my airbrush and everything else on this table. As you can see, I've got my cutting board here as well. So this really is my hobbyist table. And as the weeks and months goes on, all of this is going to change. I'm in the process of actually, well, it doesn't look it, but I'm in the process of actually reducing everything, getting everything put up on walls like these shelves behind me here, and then really just maximizing the space that I have. Now you'll see there's lots of different things printed out here. I've got some XTC 3D as well, just to really smooth out those PLA and those resin prints. I've got some Fallout boys, some Vault boys rather, which I've primed, ready to paint. I've also got South Park characters there as well. All this is cured, otherwise I wouldn't be touching it with my bare hands. I've also got things that I have made, like I have made this, designed and printed out this UFO, but obviously it didn't come out according to plan. I've got a little bit shaved off there as well, and that is, well, basically all this is going to be used for now is just for me testing a couple of paints before I reprint it and then actually get it to look exactly as I have it in my head. I've also designed, obviously this is one of my designs here, so if I put him there so you can see my little UFO, I've also designed and 3D printed this. Again, this is resin, but it's all cured. This is one of my little robots. I'm fascinated by robots, robotics. Quite a lot of sort of what might be construed as morbid subjects like apocalypse, demons and things like that. So these are the things that I have a fascination in 3D modelling. So this is one of my own as well. I've got a few more of these to show you, but obviously in time. I've got some demons that I made and then obviously snapped, which I made using Sculptress, which is the predecessor to ZBrush. So these are a couple of little demons, and then I printed them out in PLA and then just used, just for proof of thing, I then just printed it out and stuck it onto a little onto a little base here that I made and then 3D printed. I've also got some resin ones of those, which are, they should be up here. So I've got some resin little demons. As you can see, these are, they're not complete. I'm just messing around with some colours. Want to make them look quite mean and quite nasty. This one has got a bit of a nightmare in standing up because it's got really thin legs. So what I'm going to do is just lean him up there like that, and then little guy there as well. So these are the same ones as you just looked at, but in PLA. This was done in the Ender 3. I'm really quite happy with how that turned out, but still. So these are a couple of other models I've made. My robot, I love big robots. This one had no end of issues in resin printing, as I'm sure you can see on the legs. I then took that concept and then made it smaller, much smaller, and then I've got to find one that hasn't got some glue attached to it, and then shrunk them down to size. In fact, I shrunk them down to that size. So this is the same robot as you're looking at there, but in miniature scale, and I did that a couple of 100 times, and there we go. And the reason for that would be, if you're into Warhammer or tabletop games, then that is precise epic scale. You can use that in those games as well. So these are a couple of mine that I've made, as well as obviously you may be aware of the quadcopter that I printed and then flew last March, which you'll find on the channel if you want to have a little look at that as well. I then got some repairs that I am just using. This is a massive failure that I've then gone back around with a 3D pen to glue it. What I'm going to do then is get my Dremel and I'm going to make this flush all the way around. Obviously you can see there's a bit of failure in the back here, so I'm going to rebuild the back up here then with a 3D pen, file it all off, sand it all off, and then I'm going to be using the XTC 3D to go over it and then file it all down until I hopefully get rid of all adjoining lines. That's an ongoing project of mine that I've been taking a lot of time over just to ensure I get it right first time. So as you can see, I've got a lot of things going on. I've also have some tests over here of different wall thickness. One of them using, no, both of them, sorry, using water resin rather than your standard resin that requires isopropyl. So all these are cured, but as you can see, the walls are far too thin here on these, so they snapped and they exploded, which is fine. These were at 1.3 mil. I've since reprinted them and painted them, and they're downstairs in fact at 2.5 mil, and they're absolutely perfect. So that's a nice little learning curve for me. And then likewise, I'm still picking apart that guy there, which which I still to this day, if I load the G code up, it hasn't got supports, but for some reason the Ender 5 printed it with supports, so no doubt I did something wrong there. But ayo, you live and learn, don't you? So these are a couple of things I'm working on. I've got I'm very much into the doing it myself sort of thing, and to be totally honest with you, why not? Oh, and there's also another one I made which is hiding. So this one is a little rocket with some smoke. Smoke is extremely difficult for me to do. I just can't seem to wrap my head around it. So I decided what I would do is use these circular shapes and then squish them all together and then make it one whole unit. This is over 4,000 shapes in there. That I'm very, very proud of. It doesn't look like a lot, but that took quite a long time to do that. And that almost broke me, to be totally honest with you. And there's another one that I'm kind of painting with about 3 different colours for the time being to give it a really sort of old, rustic, broken down sort of feeling. So that's only the first coat that's going on there. But once I finished all these, obviously you're going to see them in the coming weeks when they're all done. So I'm big into making things myself, no matter how silly they may seem. It's all a good learning curve. It's all to improve what I'm trying to do, and that is just to have fun. Just to make these models and make them my own. I don't just want to print out other people's. I want to make my own. I want to try and elaborate and increase my knowledge in this particular area. And there is no better way than just doing it and having a laugh. And quite honestly, I got a few more that I've made as well. That's one of my own, but that was a failure because his arm snapped off because I didn't have the right supports. This is what I love about this 3D printing hobby, is that you learn so much about support placement, about bed placement, about using the correct PLA, the correct temperatures, making sure the models are correct at this particular stage. Like I can get away with, on the resin, having really thin, really nice, spindly looking arms and sort of wisps, whereas I can't really with PLA. And it's such a great sort of curve, learning curve. So there's a couple of models that you'll see. There's another one of my robots that I've printed out. This at the back here, these are some glow-in-the-dark cubes with 100% infill that I'm in the middle of making. I've printed out 30 odd of these, and I'm going to make them all into some sort of fantastico shapes. This is a marble Easter Island head, not my own design, but I loved it, so I wanted to print it, so I printed it in marble on the Ender 5, and it looks fantastic. You can't see the lines, it feels brilliant. This is 80% infill, and I wanted 80 because I wanted it to be heavy, and it is quite chunky. And then any Fallout fans will know that's a Nuka-Cola bottle that I've still got to write Nuka-Cola on. Then I've got some, I've got Avengers Hulkbuster. I've got a small one that I've printed in resin and then painted again, not my designs on these two. And this guy here, this big one, he's low poly from my Ender 3, very low resolution rather, but using heat change in PLA, so he actually turns white when he gets above 32 degrees. Then some Terminator heads, fascinated again, as I say, by Terminator. And then this was my original, I don't know if you saw the video, but my original XTC 3D version versus non-XTC 3D. So you can see it's really nice and smooth at the top, and then really line and grainy at the bottom where you don't have that. And then just an atom bomb because, you know, why the hell not? And then my large bender. I love Futurama, and I absolutely love this geezer. So I've just stuck him all together now using some Gorilla Glue, using some different types of Gorilla Glue. So I'm just shaving him off there just to ensure that everything is all nice. I've sanded his arm down from a couple of little issues. So that we had, as well as loads of other things that I'm putting together and loads of other things I'm making. Here's another one of my own designs. This is obviously with full supports. He is fully cured. This is resin again, but this is like a walker, some sort of like mechanoid, some sort of contraption with a machine gun at the top and rocket launchers. Why? Because why the hell not? If you've got an imagination, use it. And I'm a firm believer in that. So these are just a couple of things I'm working on, a couple of designs and ideas I've got. And basically, over the coming months and coming weeks, coming months, I'm going to really be pushing this on a Sunday, because this is just brilliant. I love 3D printing, model making. I'm not very good at it, but it doesn't matter. I'm good enough to make basic shapes, and I'm learning about different things, and that really does mean a hell of a lot. So I hope you'll come and enjoy me and enjoy with me and join me. There we go, that's better if I can actually talk English. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. Now these videos for the second are going to be structured in a specific way. I'm going to be doing the Ender 3 Pro first, I imagine, once I figured out where it's going to sit, and then going through everything else, as well as all of these different models, some painting techniques, as well as how to get a good shine on things, and maybe just 1 or 2 videos just painting, you know, things like a Half-Life head crab, because, you know, why the hell not? But yeah, I'm very excited. I hope you'll join me. Thank you folks for watching. I'll be back. This will be one of coming video 3D printer and model videos that you're going to see on a Sunday. So until next time, my friends, thank you ever so much for watching and listening. I've been JD. You've been fantastic as always. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe and ring that bell too. Hello and welcome to all the new subscribers. I hope you're enjoying the channel. So until next time, my friends, happy creating.